And then this goes back to what I was saying about a lack of empathy, or especially conscience. So conscience means, well, what does the word con mean in Spanish? Con? With, good. And science means knowledge. So conscience means you're doing something with knowledge. So if you have that little voice in your head that's telling you not to do a thing or telling you to do a thing, we refer to that as our conscience. It is that psychopaths don't have a conscience in the same way that other people do. Again, the brain chemistry is different. So you know that little voice in your head that tells you to return a found wallet or treat others as you want to be treated? Well, people high in psychopathy don't have that voice. Or if they do, its volume is turned down very low. Again, they may still have it, just like they may have other emotions. They may have that much empathy versus having that much empathy. But they're very shallow. As a result, they lack many of the social emotions that normal people take for granted, including guilt, remorse, sympathy, and pity. One thing I will take issue with to point out is it refers here to normal people, the suggestion being that psychopaths are not normal. It's a problem. Psychopaths are normal. That's part of the issue. They're about 1 to 3% of the population. I believe she refers to them as 1% of the population. And you're going to find that they do serve certain kinds of functions in a society. There are certain positions that you can have where empathy and even sympathy can be a problem. So for example, if we're thinking about let's say like a political leader who has to make some hard decisions. In other words, if it comes down to a matter of it's our country or your country, only one of us can survive. If you're particularly high in empathy, the person who's in power is not going to be able to make a decision about that to save their own people. So essentially it's going to be a matter of sacrificing their own people because of an overly sensitive empathy. Now we might look at people like that and go, oh my gosh, and by the way, history is littered with these people. It's not just who we think about as the tyrants. You can think about people like Alexander the Great or Julius Caesar. These are people who conquered, but they did it under the guise of trying to help their own people. And sometimes in life there are two rights, and that's the tragedy, that there are two rights in life, not just a right and a wrong. And so there are other places that we can look at, like for example, if you have a CEO who lays off, say, 14,000 workers before Christmas, and the CEO might say, well, we had to do it for the health of the company. A person who's particularly high in empathy won't be able to make that decision. So what happens if they refuse to do that? I'm not going to lay off those workers. When the stock prices plunge, people have to get laid off even more than originally stated. People who've invested their money in that company lose their money. So sometimes a lack of empathy can be helpful. In other areas, it's got to be you need to have a lot of empathy to help. We're mentioning last time surgeons, for example. If you're a surgeon, you're too high in empathy, if you're too emotionally connected to the person that you're operating on, well, you can make mistakes. So again, just be aware that these things can exist. There can be a conscience, there can be empathy. They're just not going to be very deep in that person. So go ahead and take a look at section 3.